friends. Happy Thursday, evening or morning, depending on where you are. I am Tash, and this is Unwritten Rules of the Road. And we are joined today by the amazing Krystal Garcia of Distorted Heartbeat. Krystal, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's funny because I first heard about you through friends in the Dallas community that were like, you have got to meet Krystal. She's absolutely amazing. She's doing amazing things for our community. And I remember messaging you and just really being blown away by just how like really on top of putting together shows that you were. And yeah, I mean, you've done so much for the live music community. So.
Thank you.
Um, yes. I was wondering if you could share like I guess what inspired you to get started doing what you do.
So I've always loved music. It's always been a part of my life. I credit a lot of that to my mom. My favorite early memories were me and her driving around in her car, and she was, blasting some sort of music, sometimes not appropriate music, but for my age, but she was always playing some sort of music. And so I just kind of learned, from her. And that's just some of my favorite memories was just literally just driving around, listening to songs and listening to music. And so those were some of my favorite memories. And then I always knew I wanted to do something music related. I actually tried playing guitar when I was about 15, and I sucked. So I kind of realized then that I didn't really have a lot of patience that it requires to actually learn instruments and stuff. But I knew I still wanted to do something music related, and I can't sing. I can't hold a tune or tone or whatever. So that was out of the question too. But um, but yeah, so I knew I wanted to do something music related. It wasn't until I got into college. I again I kind of flip-flopped my majors for a little while, trying to figure out, okay, how can I make this music related? Eventually just decided on still wasn't sure, but what I actually ended up doing, I I met some guys in a band, but the weird thing is that I met them online at the time in a forum for my favorite band, which is Kent, the Swedish band. So they had an online forum where it was like people from all over the world. And I actually met a couple of guys that were in a band just north of Dallas in Denton. Met them through that message forum, and they were like, "Hey, we need somebody to book our shows." They're like, "Hey, we sound a lot like Kent. We're a band. We sound like a lot like Kent. We need someone to book our shows." And I was like, "Well, might as well, just figure it out." And that's pretty much what got me started right there. It's like, well, my option. I knew I wanted to work in music. My options were obviously limited since I didn't really have much of musical ability. So that's how I got into it, basically. So,
I love that your foundation is like a true love for the music. Like that's awesome. That's really awesome.
I think that's the most important thing no matter what you do. And that's what I always tell people. And I know y'all can relate is you're going to go through really, really tough times, and then you're going to go through even worse times, and then you're going to go through really, really great times. And what matters at the end of the day when you're, especially during the hard periods, is you got to always know why you're doing it, and that's kind of what I call my big why, which is something I learned in my other business, real estate. But they always say find your big why. And so
Mm.
that is my big why I do what I do is because I love music, and I tell people you have to really love it first and foremost, because if you don't, you're going to get burnt out really, really, really quick. No matter how much you say you love it, if you don't really love it, and you're not willing to go through the bad parts to get to the good parts, you're not gonna make it, period. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love that. I feel like I can definitely relate to knowing your why. It's
yeah.
absolutely something that's vital, I think, especially that holds you in those tougher times.
Hmm. Yep. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, I know that you do actually multiple facets of music business. So not just like putting shows together, but you also do band management. I mean, there's just so many different tendrils of Distorted Heartbeat. If you could share with us like all the different tendrils that you're currently doing.
Yeah, yeah. So, like I said, originally I got started. It was kind of band managing. They were having me book their shows and build at that time, we were building press kits and the paper press kits and mailing them out and everything. But so I kind of got started more on kind of like the band managing side. And then as it just came about later, just started that just I guess that you'd say that just kind of expanded. Other bands were coming through the area and they would reach out to me through, that band I was managing at the time. They would reach out to me through them, wanted to book shows, and just eventually it just kind of became bigger, I guess you'd say, to where I just started working with more touring bands as well as the managing part. So yeah, so those two. I also have, I still consider it kind of like event work, but I also curate two pop-up markets, like for like local vendors who make jewelry, art, clothing, whatever. And I consider that part of Distorted Heartbeat as well too. So
That's really cool. I feel like that's such a great way to bring like your community together.
it is, yeah. We actually in one of the markets I have a regular dog rescue come through
Mm.
every month. The Love Pit. They specialize just in my favorite breed, pit bulls. So but it's a good way. Like I kind of took the flea market. So I kind of use that as my way to kind of integrate music because I have Cameron of Seven usually DJing but he's DJing along with whoever at the time, but he's DJing, and then I have of course my love of animals, so it kind of just melts, mixes the two together. So, but
I
yeah,
love
those
that.
so basically it's Distorted Heartbeat is band management. Promotion, promoting or booking. So any national acts that are coming through, international acts as well too. And then of course the market stuff that I do.
I love that you're like weaving all your worlds together.
Um,
That's awesome.
I try. That's what keeps me from going crazy. I always try to like figure out how the two can always like or the three can always correspond to each other. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you were first starting out, like with the band management, I mean, I'm not sure if it's the same now, for you, if that's changed, but like, what did you look for in a band that you wanted to work with?
That has changed.
Yeah.
That has actually changed quite a bit. Um, so the band that I was originally managing, one thing um, I will say I learned a lot of what to do, but also a lot of what not to do with that. Um,
Yeah.
so they were there was basically a lot of drama,
Mm.
that's musicians, go figure. Who would imagine? But and I've just kind of learned to when I see that something just isn't, if there is going to be a lot of drama, conflict, I've kind of learned to step away from that, and just separate, kind of just keep myself away from that. So that, I mean, as far as what um, that's what I've learned to do is learned what to do and what not to do, basically. So as far as
Yeah.
what I'm looking for, I look for one, anything that's not going to be just, how do I say this? I look for no drama, pretty much. Um, you know, um, but I also like as far as what I'm looking for bands, like, and stuff that I'm working with, or if it's a national tour coming through, um, honestly, my biggest thing is just that it's good. So
Mhm. Yeah.
just that it's good. And what my idea of something that is good and what I like, I know is probably going to be very, very, very specific. So I also look for, okay, what will other, I know that just because I don't like it, or I don't even want to say I don't like it, but even if I don't like it, I know somebody else will. It just has to be good, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, it's especially if that is if your baseline is like I really have to love it on some level. You have to see the good in it, like you were saying. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So, are you I mean, I know you mentioned having some shows up ahead in the year. Like, are there any particularly notable ones that you're excited about?
So it hasn't quite been announced on my end yet, but I do have Curse Mackey booked at a place called Three Links, which is actually where Alice played last year. So I have him
Nice.
booked at Three Links at the end of July, on July 31st, along with Sign and Void Palace. I'm actually really, really excited about that. Um, One of the things many, many years ago, when I was again starting to look into more like the business side of things, I found this book and I still have it, but it was by Martin Atkins, Tour Smart. And I read through that, and the thing is, at the time, that book focuses a lot on like and more industrial and stuff. And so I wasn't really familiar with a lot of the bands at the time, but it was just fun reading each person's expert or excerpt, and like looking at what all the advice and everything. It was really cool. But sometimes they're like lately I've gone back to that book and I'm like, it's crazy how some of that stuff just still applies. But I'm very excited about the Curse Mackey show. Just mainly from his experience in the music industry. I know like there's a lot to be learned right there. So, and that's always very, very important. Is It's always like I like to make everything like a learning experience on learning from other people's perspectives, what I can do better, what I can improve on, all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool because I've had so many guests that have referenced that book.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a fan of it myself. I love that it's kind of like the holy grail of the touring circuit. Like we all
It
really
it really
admire.
is. And it's
Yeah.
still like, and some of the funny stuff too is like, when I got that book when it first, probably when it was first released or whatever, and read it, honestly, I never would have thought that I'd be working with any of the artists that are in that book, but yeah. So,
That's really cool. I mean, I same, honestly, we played with Sign in Austin and I got to meet Sign and Curse as well at that show. And there was definitely a part of me that was fangirling where I was like, oh my gosh. Like
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So but that's so cool that you're gonna be doing a show in July with them.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Very excited about that one. And also I've heard good things about Void Palace as well too. So, I'm always I'm always down for having a new band that few people have heard of come through. Like I'm always, down to help that and help get the word out about them. So,
So I've worked with a lot of different promoters that like approach putting together a show in different ways.
mhm.
Um, and something I really appreciated about you is that when you were putting together our show, like you put together the whole lineup.
Right. Yeah.
And that was awesome because I mean I'll do my research and I'll do my work, but sometimes it's hard for me to know if I'm not from the city, like, all the bands. And I was just curious, like what makes you think about a band opening for a show that's coming through?
This is gonna sound so cheesy and lame, but there's just certain when have a show booked and then I'm looking for an opener, I don't know, it's just a gut feeling that will direct me to a specific band. I can't say why. It's just an overall feeling like, oh, this one will go great with that, or great with this band or this band. It's just kind of like, I don't know. I like to kind of have a whole vibe going and just keep that going. So, yeah.
I love that. It sounds like cooking in a way where you're like, ooh, I think maybe a sprinkle of this and
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll go with that. I can't cook. So at least if I can
Ha
get the show line up right, I don't know.
I love it. It's like it is like putting together a whole tasty thing, hopefully.
Honestly, like I tell people sometimes, so obviously since I'm not a musician, don't really know how to do anything creative. At least I don't think I do. So always tell people, look, that's my creative part right there is putting that, putting the right bands together. That's where my amount of creativity comes in. So,
Absolutely. That is really creative. I mean, because like I think about when I go to a show and it has a really nice flow, or I'm like from start to finish, like I want to see the opening band all the way
mhm,
up to the very last band, and it really it's like it's captivating. And there is a weaving, like you feel like it's like the bands, even if they're different a little bit, like I feel like it makes sense when all the bands kind of gel together.
right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's always, like I said, it's always a good feeling too, especially, with local bands, to get them in front of the right audience. And but it also, and sometimes it's, it's also, it's not just about the flow and how the whole night goes. I also try to look for bands that are passionate and that are eager to play and excited to play, because doesn't matter what their following is, if they're raving about the show and telling everybody, that energy is going to come off and more people are going to come in, whether they've got 5 followers or 500 or 5,000 followers. It's all about how eager and how happy and how excited they are to play. And it always, when it's a good show, it always comes back, and then you get to see how like their efforts were rewarded. And so, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think about like when we get to play with bands with that kind of energy, it's just a joy, like all
Mhm.
around, it's such a joy where you're like, wow, it's like we're all happy and excited to be there. Um, you
Yes.
know.
And that it never matters, there can be 5 people there, 100 or 200, like as long as the bands are happy and the energy is right, turnout doesn't matter. Like that it's all about just having that right energy on stage. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And so refreshing to hear because there are, you know, promoters that put a lot of pressure. I mean, we do our best to promote,
I'll do
to bring in
beyond your
people.
best.
Yes,
I'll
we do
do
our
great.
best. Yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes you really don't have control. Like we've had bad luck with
Mhm.
having sometimes like it's like this like there's certain tours that are touring exact same night from city to city, and so there's just only so much you can do, you know.
I always tell people, you got to, it's a lot like gambling, you can't always control the outcome. And I always tell people, well, you got to have a love for pain, apparently. If you want to get into any part of the music business, you got to love some form of pain because you can't get out of it. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's like I've had different people I've chatted with when they're asked, they're like, if there's anything else that you can do, do that.
Mhm.
'Cause it's a lot. It's a big commitment to do music, it is. It asks a lot of you for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Um, so, sorry, what was the question?
No. I think we were just tangenting. Yeah. 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 No, I was thinking about the fact that like, um, in the challenging times, like you were saying, like knowing your why and holding on to that really does make all the difference. And I was curious, like, are there specific more challenging moments that you'd be willing to share? Like any moments where you're like, oh my gosh, like all the fires I have to put out or whatever the case is.
Um, There are, yes, because there's so many things that everybody works differently. Like every venue works different from other venues. Every booking agent, the ones that book the tours, like they all work different from everybody, from each other, and everything's different. I had one band come through, and sometimes I'll get a rider like 2 6 months out. Sometimes I won't get it till the week before. And I had one band come through and they needed quite a lot of equipment. So, which luckily I live with the musician Cameron from Sevitt. So I was like, well, that helps. But but yeah, it's that and so it was just kind of a matter of just juggling all of the different, things that they needed tech-wise, with just the other stuff for the show, like catering and tickets and guest list and all of that. I've gotten to the point where I have an insane amount of checklists and just to stay organized to keep up with it all. Um, that one is the most recent one that comes to mind. I can't really say that I've had. I mean, I've been yelled at a couple of times, but you know, I've been yelled at, and but it's bound to happen no matter what job you're in. The at the end of the day, you just want to take what happened and figure out how you can do it better, the next time
Yeah.
around. So, um, nothing really like, but again, I kind of think I'm like a glutton for punishment. So, but nothing really nothing really bad has happened. So,
That's awesome.
at least nothing that I would see as bad. So.
Yeah. No.
Anything that goes wrong, I try to figure out where it went wrong. And if it's something that I did, I take ownership of it. If I failed to communicate something, then that's on me. I just, got to be a big girl, suck it up, admit to it, move on, and do what I can at the time to fix it. So, I guess I'm just not that sensitive to that kind of stuff. So.
Well, I imagine you have to have a thick skin, you know.
Yeah, yes. Not just thick skin. I think you have to have chainmail and leather and like everything. Yeah, I mean, I've been yelled at and I've been told I was some pretty bad things, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I just took it, okay. Am I really that bad? I don't think so. So,
I love your attitude of just like, how can I learn and grow from this?
mhm,
I mean, I feel like, I mean, from what I understand, you've been doing Distorted Heartbeat since 2016,
right. Yeah.
right? And I mean, you can't be around, and have that kind of amazing resume that you have, like putting all the shows together and working with all the bands without some level of growth. You have to continue to evolve, I'm sure.
Yeah, for me, and this is always just me personally, no matter pretty much any job that I have, once I get to where I feel like I'm at least at a decent point, of it, then I'm already looking like, okay, how can I change it? How can I make it better? How can I make it bigger? That's
Yeah.
just me. I kind of get to that little stagnant point where I'm like, okay, this is boring. We got to mix it up a little. Got to do something different. So I always try to get, to me, any type of education, or knowledge or experience you can get is way more valuable than money or anything like that, so I always try to figure out what I can learn from something. So,
Absolutely. Well, I was curious, like, do you have any places that you envision growing Distorted Heartbeat? Is like, are there any plans for the future that you'd be willing to share?
yeah, I would definitely like to lean more into the artist management side, and finding more bands to represent, not just book their shows, but more, getting on PR and everything. So I'm definitely looking into leaning a little bit more towards that, as well as booking not just shows here in Dallas, but tours all over, would be my ultimate goal. So
That's awesome. I could definitely see you excelling for sure. Like as much success that I've seen you have with Distorted Heartbeat, and how much you've done
thank
in that
you.
community. I'm excited to see the future for Distorted Heartbeat for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, speaking of touring, do you ever go on any tours yourself, or is it everything done on the back end?
So everything is done on the back end. That is another goal of mine eventually, is I would
Nice.
love to do tour managing. Absolutely. Like 120%. But which I know some people say it sounds crazy, but yeah. We already established that there is a little level of crazy. So that's fine. But no, that is one of my ultimate goals is to do definitely go on tour, do some tour managing. Um, but for now, yes, everything is mostly on the back end. I always kind of make a joke, maybe to myself, but also to other people. But like, people just think, oh, that I'm always going out and always doing stuff and always having fun. And I'm like, actually, no, I'm pretty much always behind a computer, like 24/7. It's not that exciting at all. The outcome is exciting, but the part the part leading up to it, not so much. Yeah.
I love those. I've seen this where it's like what people think I do
Uh-huh.
versus what I actually do. Yes.
That always comes to mind. That always comes to mind. I imagine people think I'm out there and I'm like at all the clubs, but no, I'm really at home in my pajamas.
Yeah, that sounds very familiar. Yep. I think though it's like I think you would really love the tour management though because I think like that is when you're like really getting to experiencing it like almost daily.
Right.
Um
Yeah.
you know.
And yeah, that's yeah, like I said, that's definitely a future goal of mine for sure. Pretty much, you always got to think 1, 2, 3, 5 years ahead. So somewhere in
Yeah.
there.
Okay, so I was curious because I love the name, but I was wondering like how you came up with Distorted Heartbeat.
So that one's an easy one. That is one of my absolute favorite musicians, favorite bands. Dennis from the band Refused, Dennis Lixon. Um, I still might not be pronouncing his last name correctly, but he was in the Refused International Noise Conspiracy, and then he started a new a band, INVSN, Invasion, basically. He started, and they're very, very post-punk for sure. But they had a song called Distorted Heartbeat, and I would listen to that while, walking my dog and working out, and I'm like, it just always seems to it was just something about the lyrics that just stood out to me at that particular time. And so that's ultimately where I got it from. So
Oh, I love that.
yeah.
I love that it's like so much of your roots are really it goes back to your love of the music and people and bands that you're inspired by. Oh, I think I lost you. Oh, there you are.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Fix this.
there you are. Yay.
Okay.
Awesome.
I'm yeah. I didn't think about that. My internet gets a little weird, always about the same time every day. I don't know why, but
The hamsters go on strike.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, well, I was wondering like do you have any favorite moments? I mean, obviously there's a lot of love that you've expressed for music, but do you have like certain highlight moments where you're like, this is exactly why I'm doing this? Like some favorite shows or
Oh
moments?
gosh. Trying to think of some very specific ones. I can't think of any like specific instances right off, but it can just sometimes be like the smallest show, if the crowd that makes a big difference when the crowd is dancing. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter how many people are there. If there's a small group of people that are out there just having fun, um, every once in a while I'll get somebody who comes up and they're just like they'll come up to me and they're like, "Oh my God, I never thought I'd get to see this band." And I think that one's always my favorite one when I get people that say that because because it just helps to know that it matters to somebody that's out there. And actually, here is a perfect example. Um, this is a perfect example. So I booked the Dallas stop for the band Pig back in October of last year. And mind you, of course, everyone knows Pig's been around for, quite a few decades. But there was this all along the front row, and I just had to stand there and just watch it for like the longest time. Like, am I really seeing this? But there were all of these college kids, college age kids, and I know they were college age because one of them was from University of Texas at Dallas doing the photography. But I mean, they were all so young. And I was just amazed because they were all like out there just they knew every single word to every single Pig song. And I was just like, is this really happening? Like obviously somebody's parents are out there doing something right. But it was very cool, very, very cool to see that. I think that was that was a perfect example. When I saw that and I saw like the younger kids coming out and listening to stuff, from you know, 80s, 90s, that definitely like that stuff always makes my day when I see that. So
Absolutely. It's really cool to see like people, you know, as well getting introduced to a band, for the first time and especially with a band like Pig that's been around and are legends in our community for
exactly.
sure.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Just wanted to take a moment to say hello to everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you have any questions for Krystal, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Um, I was wondering, like, if you could give any advice to a band that's out on the road, playing live, like what are things that you feel like bands should know? Like things that we could learn from, like maybe things that we might not be aware of, and we're like, oh, this is good to know.
So this one is always when a band is coming through, especially if it's a newer band, one of the things that I always go back and I look to, and I know this isn't 100% correct, but I always look at not so much the number of followers they have on any particular social media platform, but I look at their quality and their quantity of content. Um, I seriously, when bands reach out to me and then I find out that they don't even have an Instagram or they have an Instagram and the last post was 6 months ago, I seriously, I just like die inside a little when I see that. And I know it's stuff that nobody wants to do. I have to do it myself and honestly, like going out and recording my own social media content was not on my checklist or bingo card of things that I thought that I would have to do, but you have to do it. It's I know some people don't like it, but it's just one of those like necessary evils. Like you have to do it in order to get the word out there right now for bands. So that's like the biggest thing I would say is post content post it regularly. Um, if you think it's stupid, post it anyways, because eventually you're going to just get in the habit of it. And I'm saying this as I need to do it myself, but like just get in the habit of it and just do it, because the only thing worse than a stupid post is no post at all or no content at all. So it's just like that's my biggest thing is because show that you're out there putting your music out there. Because ultimately that's what other venues and everything's going to look at, and that's what they're going to rely on. Is this band going to be worth my time? Are they going to push the show? Well, they haven't upgraded or updated their Instagram since, March of 2024. Probably not. Okay, never mind, So, but yeah, that's my big thing is that's the number one thing I would say is to always update, you know, keep everything updated, keep your social media updated. Also, if you're out on the road, talk to people, talk to your fans, run your own damn merch booth. If you're just getting started, run your own merch booth, you can hire someone to do it when you get to like the larger club level, but for now, run your own merch booth because that is the perfect opportunity to actually talk to the people who come there. And even if they're there to see another band or the headliner or whatever, just you being at the merch booth, some are going to feel obligated to talk to you and just be nice, and that's a perfect opportunity to get your music out there. So people always like that personal connection, especially more so now than before. It's not like the 80s or the 90s or 2000s where you could just sit back and be mysterious and cool. Like people want you out there and they want to see you and they want to get to know you. And so yeah, that's my big thing is if you're a touring band, get your music, market yourself, market yourself, whether that be through social media, just getting out there and just talking to your fans. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's personally one of my favorite parts about touring is getting to meet people in person or hang out in person, see
mhm,
people that you've met before, or make new friends. Like I think that's definitely some solid golden wisdom for sure.
absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Well, are there any things like in terms of like when a band is approaching you for the first time that you look for? Like besides, I mean, do you just notice like their activity and like the quality of the work that they're putting out or
Yeah, the quality, and I could be forgiving on some people. They might not have the most pristine recording. That's fine, but it's just is the music good? One, is it something that people will want to come out and see? And then just also how well I don't want to say advertise, but how well they market themselves, and how interactive they are, basically. So.
yeah, absolutely. When I was mentioning to you that sometimes if the promoter isn't putting together the lineup and I'm the one doing it, I always look for like, when is the last time they played a show? Oh, it's
Mhm.
been 5 years. I don't think they're active anymore.
Yes. Yeah. That's another thing
Yeah.
too. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing about it is I do look across multiple platforms as well. So not just like any one particular, like I do look across like all the different socials because some people are a little bit more active on one than the
Mhm.
other. So,
Yeah. Obviously, like the more, it depends on the demographic, but obviously the kind of millennial, Gen X, and older, those are going to be looking for more Facebook, and you're going to look to Facebook for that. And then younger crowds, Instagram, maybe TikTok, but yeah.
yeah.
And it's always so
Yeah.
weird to me, like still, because I'll see, there's some bands out there, they'll have like, you'll go to Facebook, it's like 300 followers, and then you go to their Instagram and it's like 10,000 or something like that. It's always kind of crazy how it's so different. Mm.
Yeah, it is really interesting because as well, we have played with bands that had no online presence and then the show was packed, which was
Hmm.
like, I mean, they were, granted, they don't tour, like, so they're really packed in that one city.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
And that helps too. And sometimes it's also just a matter of, kind of being old school and, especially if you're a local band, going out and to your own, shows in your own town and word of mouth, just getting word of mouth out that way, the old school way, just talking to people. So,
Yeah, I feel like that makes a huge difference. Like, going out to the shows in your own, city, and supporting your friends or learning about new bands that come through, you know, especially for like in cities that you do have like a lot of different options. So,
right. Yeah. Yeah, and we definitely do here in Dallas. Not so much just actual, the live shows, but then we've got several DJs here, and they each have, we always make a joke that there's like a goth night on every day of the week here, which a lot of people are surprised about. But yeah, it's also, not just about going to other band shows, but going to those events as well too, and so and supporting the DJs and as well. So,
yeah, absolutely. I feel like too, it's like some of the DJs that we've been fortunate enough to get to work with, like you see them so supportive of all the different shows.
mhm.
Um, so and they do their own promoting as well. So yeah, I think it goes together like peanut butter and jelly for sure.
I always like to have a DJ at all of my shows. One, it just kind of builds up the crowd before the first band goes on, but then it also kind of keeps everything going, between sets. You're not listening to some death metal music or something that the venue decided to play. Like it just keeps the whole same vibe going, and then sometimes
Oh
it's
yeah.
fun is, when the show's done, some people will hang around just to dance and hang out with the DJ, and I love it when that happens. It's like its own little mini after party. So,
It's one of my favorite parts too. I love to dance. So,
mhm.
when there's a DJ at the show, I'm like, yes, I get to have a dance party like right after. It's like all the best things for sure.
Yeah. One of my favorites, I booked nightclub. Actually, it was about 3 days after I booked the Alice show at Three Links, but nightclub came through and we had Byron. DJ Lord Byron, he runs, well, he DJs at both the Panopticon and the Church, which are our two longest running goth nights here in Dallas. But so he DJ'd the nightclub show, and then sure enough, like right after the show, he had his own little crowd dancing, and and I was up on the balcony of the venue, and I took videos of it, and I still love that. I'm like little mini after party here.
I love that. That's awesome. And so cool that you booked a nightclub.
That was actually, oh, that was really fun because that was also, like I said, it was about 2 days, or it was about 3 days after May 1st, after Alice was here, but it was also like the day after my birthday. So nightclub, Emily was good enough, kind enough to say happy birthday to me on stage, and then Rose Garden Funeral Party, they were touring with nightclub, and Leah said happy birthday to me. I'm like, this is awesome. This is the best birthday
Oh,
ever. I'm like, this
that
is the
is
best birthday
awesome.
party.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love birthday shows.
Yes.
They are the best. Yes. That's so cool. I saw Rose Garden Funeral Party when they came to LA a few months ago. They were touring with A Starry Night, and then there was another band. My mind's slipping a little bit. I can't remember the name of them, but it was such a good show. And my first time seeing Rose Garden Funeral Party as well. So,
Leah is great. She is also doing, I think she's also doing wonders for the whole Dallas. I think it's her bands like Rose Garden, Night, and Sevet all being here from Dallas. I think they're kind of putting us on the map, as far as all the talented music goes. But yeah, she actually has gorgeous, gorgeous, beautiful voice. We had her do an acoustic show at one of my flea markets. And that was the first time that I realized, like, I was like, this girl can really, really sing. I always knew she was a good singer, but then I got to hear it. She's great. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, can you hear me?
mhm, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. I
Yes.
thought I cut out. Okay. This is our night of the hamsters revolting with all the tech
Oh,
stuff.
waits till we're both comfortable, and then it's like, nope, here we go.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really beautiful voice. I really enjoyed the show. I haven't seen Nightclub live yet, but that's on my bucket
Oh,
list.
they're great.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Emily's probably one of my favorite live performers, like by far. She's amazing. So,
yeah. I've seen videos and I'm like, "Oh, I can't wait to see them." So,
yeah,
yes.
great show for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because you brought up like I feel like the Texas music scene right now is really like there's some amazing artists that are coming out. Dallas, Austin, I mean, we've got like Urban Heat. It's I'm trying to remember oh, I think Night Rituals is also from San Antonio.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's also Haunt Me as well too.
Oh,
Uh,
Haunt Me, yes.
and then, and of course, obviously, Twin Tribes.
Yes, Twin Tribes. Yes. Yes. Amazing. Yeah. It was so cool when I found out like yeah, there's just a bunch of people that are bands that are coming out of Texas and I mean, I was curious like when did you start seeing this sort of surgence of all these bands coming up?
Um, I would say, um, I feel like it kind of got its resurgence like back in maybe the mid like 2010, 20, yeah, probably about 2010, I think is right. A few years like around there. That's when I noticed all of it start kind of picking up. I kind of have my different theories on that and why it's just all of a sudden it seems like it's actually cool to be goth now, whereas before, I was just that weird kid, in the back of the class. But now it's cool. So, but yeah, I think there's a few things that kind of attribute that I attribute to that, or contributed to it rather. Um, I think, having that whole kind of resurgence of the 80s sound, like when the Killers came out, I think that eventually kind of led to it. And then people want to laugh at me when I say this, but I think emo music had a really big effect on, all of those bands that, all the cool goth kids at the time wanted to make fun of them. But, all of those bands were listening to The Cure and Depeche Mode and Duran Duran, and eventually I think the kids who are listening to the emo music are just starting to grow up, and they've grown up now. They want to either start their own band, or they want to, listen to the bands that their favorite band listened to. And so I think that's kind of helped it. I think that's actually why it's kind of resurged a lot. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure somebody will disagree with me on that one, but whatever. The good thing
Yeah.
is it's the good thing is that people are out there and they're listening to the music. Who cares about all the stupid labels as long as they're out there having a good time. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's so cool to see like really thriving music scenes
mhm.
that are really popping up like kind of all over right now. So,
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Um, so I actually, and this was really weird to me, but so I grew up in Fort Worth, which is just west of Dallas, not too far. It's basically almost like the same city, same metroplex. But I grew up there, and I never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I would be booking She Passed Away or Twin Tribes or Vision Video in the town that I grew up in. Like I specifically moved from Fort Worth to Dallas for a reason, because I wanted to be where like there was a little bit more of a music scene, like for this kind of music at the time. So it's always just kind of weird to me that yeah, there's a whole group over in Fort Worth that like all that same stuff and that they'll go to that and then it's just really all over. So,
We're getting a question from Elder Goth on Twitch. Thank you so much for your question. I saw Krystal posted a photo remembering Doug McCarthy with Cammy in a group photo. I wonder if there are any stories or memories of the show at the church that you would
oh
be
yeah.
willing to share.
So that was my previous booking company. We were actually asked by the church to help promote the show, to help be co-promoters for that show, which the church is, like I said, that's the longest running goth night here in Dallas. So one already that was an honor for Don Nudler is somebody who I have a lot of respect for and what he's done for this music scene. I mean, in my opinion, there wouldn't be a goth scene here without him. So um, it was an honor to actually get to work with him on that show. But then also, that was kind of early on when I started, when I started working with touring bands. Um, so we actually ended up taking Douglas McCarthy to the mall because he needed to pick up some stuff from the mall, and so like we're driving him around, and I'm like, never did I think I would be taking Douglas McCarthy to North Park Mall in Dallas. But yeah, but it was a really cool show. I will say that was a very special memory, but then also it was a couple years later. They played at Granada Theater in Dallas, and me and Cami went kind of to the backstage area after the show to just say hi to them and everything. Because even though it wasn't our show at Granada, we were just there to say hi. And Bon like sees us, and he's like, "Oh my God, I thought y'all were going to be helping. Y'all were doing this show." And I was like, that was just an honor. Like he automatically, recognized us and he remembered what we did from the previous show. So I'm like, that in itself was just an honor just to be, from somebody as legendary as Knights or Rebs. So yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I never had a chance to see them, but
Oh, wow. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
definitely, definitely a very high energy show. I brought one of my coworkers at the time, or he went to that show, and had no clue about goth or industrial or anything, but he was just like, he was in awe. He was like, oh my God, it's like they had so much energy. He was talking about it at work like the whole next week and singing all these Nights or Ebb songs that he just learned.
I love that. Converting them one at a time. Yes. That's really, really cool. Oh, Pete Russo is saying, if my video is clear enough for me to be correct, your head is perfectly framed between Marilyn and James, and it's quite fitting. That's awesome.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, and to Dark Realm, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Um, yes. If you have any questions for the amazing Krystal, drop them in the chat and I will relay them. Yeah. I know that you book all kinds of bands, but it would you say that it's like you have kind of more of an affinity for like the dark alternative genre in general? Because I know there's many categories.
Yeah, so as far as if somebody was to actually ask me what I listen to, I do listen to everything. That's just, that started from a young age. My mom was into the 80s hip hop and R&B. Dad was into classic rock. Grandparents were into country and Tejano. And so I've been listening to everything. And I still listen to like literally everything. My favorite band is Kent. They were rather more kind of melodic, rock band, not goth at all, though they did have one album that was kind of dark, but they're not goth at all. But it just even though like all of my some of my favorites lay outside of that, I don't know. It just kind of everything seems to have fallen into place with this. So I'm which is fine. I mean, that is where again a lot of my background and the stuff I listened to as a kid, but and still I still listen to, of course, a lot of goth stuff till this day, but I don't know why it just somehow all just kind of fell into place, and it was just like one band after the other, and yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of funny how things fall into place in that way, for
Mhm.
sure. You know, well, especially when you don't label yourself or you don't pigeonhole yourself into what you like, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I try not to, but at the same time, it is just where my background is too.
Hmm.
But yeah, but also, I mean, things change too. Stuff, could be just way different. The music scene's probably going to be way different in about 5 or 10 years than it is now. And to me, it's always important too that no matter what you do, where you work or what you work on, you always have to be willing to adapt. One, always do what you love, but then also be willing to adapt, and just kind of go with the flow. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, if somebody wanted to start as a promoter,
Mhm.
like what, how would they start? Like that, what are like things that they could do that where they're like, I want to start doing this in my city.
One, find a local band that and just offer to help them book their shows. And my in my opinion, or not my word of advice, when you do that, when you do work with a band and when you are reaching out to venues and booking agents and everything, be prepared to be ghosted, like all the time. All the time. You will be ghosted, so get used to it. But the one thing and the one thing I will tell people is I don't have the most vibrant, bubbly personality, so maybe I can't win people over that. But one way I can win them over is just being determined and consistent. And that's what I always tell people. Whenever you want to start out, be determined and consistent and keep going and don't stop until you say get a no, until you get some sort of answer. Um, so yeah, that's what I would say. First, yeah, just reach out to a local band and help them and see what ways you can help them. I think that's always a good start. Now with social media, I think it also helps to not just know what's there locally, but also reach out to people who are doing stuff, nationally and internationally, and that's one thing I would say. And don't be afraid to just really just talk to people, basically, Don't be afraid to get uncomfortable. That is the most important thing. That is definitely the most important thing. You've got to get out of your comfort zone, even if you're not, y- whether you're a band, booking agent, manager, whatever, be prepared to get out of your comfort zone. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like, talking about the be prepared to be ghosted definitely goes for being in a band as well. Because, like,
oh yeah.
when you're looking for shows, it's like, well, guess we're not going to be playing there.
Yeah.
It happens. Rejection is part of it.
Yeah. And it's like I personally like it when people just tell me no, so I know to move on.
Yes.
But and so I do try to return that same kind of favor when people reach out to me for something. Like I try to always respond, and yes, I could do it. No, I can't do it, whatever. I always try to respond in some sort of way just to be courteous and not waste their time.
It's very appreciated. Unfortunately, not everyone is like you.
I believe it, and I'm trying not to my goal is to not be that person.
Yes, it's
So,
very appreciated for sure.
thank you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I was curious actually, like, have you ever put together a festival?
I actually put together a miniature festival back in, I think it was I think it was 2016, maybe 2017. It was about six local bands and maybe about six DJs, all electronic bands. Um, I did that. I would absolutely, that's another goal of mine is to book some sort of festival here in the Dallas Fort Worth area. I think if it could be in Fort Worth, you know, my old hometown, that would be awesome. But
Yeah,
that is one goal that I'd eventually like to do. I do want to learn more about getting sponsorships and so that eventually, yeah, a festival filled with vendors, bands, DJs, perfect. Yeah.
absolutely. It's so cool when you see like a lot of people coming together like that. We played Dark Force Fest in New Jersey
Mhm.
last year, and just all the artisans that came out, and and it was just so many creative, talented people that had just so many different offerings, which I thought was so inspiring.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's we have a couple of festivals that like Sevet has played here in Dallas and that that is one of the really cool things. Is really just the whole networking aspect of it and getting to talk to people and meet new bands and stuff. Yeah. And eventually, like I said, I would like to do something like that here more specifically for the goth crowd. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Um, we're getting asked by Dark Realm, if we like to listen to 45 Grave, Rosetta Stone, Lebanon, Hanover, She Passed Away, London After Midnight, Sisters of Mercy, Switchblade Symphony, all great bands. They're all
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And what goth clubs do we have in our area?
Yeah, as far as the bands, Rosetta Stone, definitely. Obviously, she passed away. I booked them at a place called Tulips in Fort Worth. What was London After Midnight. That remind Rosetta Stone and London After Midnight remind me of my college years because that's when I was listening to them, especially London After Midnight. But I'm just like having flashbacks to like shopping at one of the malls that coincidentally had one of the London After Midnight albums there. Um, but yeah, definitely a fan of them. As far as music goes, she passed away, obviously. Um, I do like the old school goth death rock stuff for sure. So-
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And then yeah, as far as clubs, like our main night here is the church, which is every Sunday night. They had this used to be in this big, beautiful venue that was stained glass, two levels. It was gorgeous, but unfortunately they had to move. But they've found a different venue. And I personally, I like the venue a lot. It's just a more cozier feel to it. They have gotten a newer crowd there, it's a younger crowd, which is always fun to see, just how everything changes. But the church has been going strong for quite a while. Um, DJ Lord Byron. He DJs Panopticon, which is every Friday night. I'm always kind of amazed at Byron because the Panopticon that night, that club night, has literally gone through probably about five different venue changes in almost 20 years. But somehow Byron has got the magic touched where he has this loyal crowd that has literally followed him to each and every venue. So he's definitely somebody else like locally that I respect a lot for sure for what he's done. And then we also have like a lot of really fun smaller nights. So Cameron from Sevet, he DJs at it's a place called Charlie's. It's a new place, fairly new, maybe about 4 years old now, I think. Super fun place, which I'm gonna have to take Alice there whenever y'all come here next. Because every time after a show, we always go to Charlie's. Now we always try to take the band to Charlie's, and pretty much they see that place and that's going to be their next stop in Dallas, and that's going to be the place. I always make a joke. I'm like, I can't take. I got to stop taking bands there because the sound is so good there that you wish it was a live venue. So, but and I'll get some bands that'll message me like months later, and they're like, "So do you think we could maybe do a small little show at Charlie's?" But Charlie's is a really great place, though. So Cameron from Sevitt, he has every third Wednesdays. He has a club night called Dark Room, which it's all, you know, goth. We're doing a tribute to Douglas McCarthy next week. So he has that, and then we've got so many other DJs, like really really good DJs. Tulips, which is more a live venue, but they have a small bar in the back called Low Doubt Bar. And every Monday is um, DJ Diosa, which for Monday night, I've been there once, and I was actually really shocked at how many people were willing to come out on a Monday night. It was pretty impressive. But there's that. There's also another club night called Away from the Numbers, La Bruja, another club night. But there's no shortage of good DJs here. No shortage of DJ nights. Everything's great. So.
That's so cool. Like I said before, it's like the community in Dallas, it's like I feel like it's definitely a huge music mecca for sure. There's just so much going on.
Yeah. And um it's also just really important to like everybody is for the most part very supportive of everyone. So like I said, Byron is really great. I mean, I can go to him to do set up ticket giveaways for any shows, and he's always down for it. Like he's always down for building the scene, you know, and building the local community. And it's so important too to not be so. I think that's another thing that I've learned too is it's very important to try and always do the right thing. You know, always do the right thing because don't burn any bridges ever, like ever, 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 never. Um, I it's but it's always important to support and build up the other people that are around you because eventually that is going to come back, you know. It is going to come back to you at some point, you know. And so it's just very important.
Absolutely. It's funny how this world is so much smaller than you realize.
Oh
Like
yeah.
you, yeah,
Yeah. Especially in the music part, which again, it's like I said, never burn a bridge.
yes.
Even if it's with someone who you don't think is part of the whole music group that you're interested in or whatever, never burn bridges because somehow, some way, everyone's connected and it's going to come back to you if you do that. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Another question from Elder Goth on Twitch. I wonder how much Krystal thinks Deep Ellum has contributed to band discovery and exposure, where you can walk along the street and hear music coming from venues such as Three Links, Trees, etc., and get sucked into a venue.
um, definitely. That's, you know, and it's changed quite a bit. You know, some of the live music venues down there are, you know, they're becoming fewer and fewer. But that was actually one of the reasons I'll go back to. Like I grew up in Fort Worth, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to move to Dallas because I'd always heard so much about the music and the local bands at the time and Deep Ellum and yeah, I mean Deep Ellum's definitely the whole mecca of where you know to discover live music. You can go to obviously you can go to Three Links, Trees right across the street. Ruins is a really, really cool place. I did my first show there last month. They've been open for quite a while, but that was the first show that I had done there, and it's just the decor is amazing. It's just a very, very, very cool vibe. I love the vibe there. But Ruins is great. And then there's also like some smaller venues, Reno's, if you're looking for more like the metal, you know, the more heavier stuff. But Yeah, definitely. But
I
there's
love
just
that.
oh,
Oh,
I was
sorry,
gonna
just
say,
that there's
yeah, there's
there's
just
so
a
much.
great, yeah, there's a great community there. Yeah,
Yeah.
all of the venue owners, they all know each other. They all talk. They all try to look out for each other, from what I've gathered and noticed, and that's important. So,
I think in all of the really healthy music communities that I've seen, it's like there's support for each other. So it's not just like it's about me. It's a very giving, like supportive of each other, kind of mindset, I think.
yeah, you won't. I don't think you would get far if you were people who are more concerned about themselves and just the quick success burn out really, really quick and do not get far at all. So I think it's important to lean on those around you and support those around that are around you as well too. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really cool because I feel like, in like I was mentioning the places where I see like it's really thriving. Charlotte, North Carolina is an example of that, like really thriving music community there.
mhm.
And they all like to go to each other's shows and help promote each other and stuff like that, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean, we definitely we get that we get that quite a bit here. I've never reached out to anybody, a DJ or anything, and for help and been turned down. Everybody definitely supports one another.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I feel like well, it's the same in the band world, like, when we play with different bands from different cities, like we love helping each other out. Like I think
Hmm.
that's like a big part of it is like, there is a genuine camaraderie. Because really like, the music world is so small. So, you know, we might be spread across different cities, but we're pretty much a pretty small little world. So,
Right. And that actually goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, that's one of the things that I like to see from bands, and I appreciate when they're willing to help the other band out. Like that contributes, just that whole camaraderie there, and that contributes to the rest of the night, like in just making sure everyone's happy and just having a good time. So it's I'm not big on bands that slam other bands and talk crap about them. And it's even worse when they play shows with them later, and I'm like, that no, that just no. That makes you kind of someone that I don't really want to put a lot of faith into when people have that negative attitude towards other bands. So,
yeah, absolutely. I know. I feel like, and I mean, I think positivity and negativity can be very contagious in both directions.
oh yeah, very
Yeah.
true. Very, very, very true. Yes.
Yeah. Um, oh, I think so Pete was saying I have a musician friend in New York City that uh swears there must be like six of her because she always seems to hit every gig every night, no matter how many. I imagine in New York especially, it'd be very, very busy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up in Lubbock myself,
I didn't
which,
know that.
yeah, Lubbock, Texas.
Well, that's a
And
surprise. You're a Texas girl too.
I'm a Texas girl. But it's funny because like we always looked up to Dallas as like the place to go to for music, where it was
Mhm.
like we didn't get a lot in Lubbock. And so like I will always appreciate when there's a city that has like a lot of different options and like something for everyone.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why, again, at the time there wasn't much in Fort Worth when I was growing up. And so that's why I always kind of looked to Dallas, and I was like, all right, when I get old enough, I'm going to move to Dallas. So I can discover all these clubs in Deep Ellum, this place called Deep Ellum that everybody talks about.
I know when we played at Three Links, I was like, again, kind of fangirling. I was like, oh my gosh, we get to play in Deep Ellum. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
here I am.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and that place is definitely changing. It kind of went through like a dead period to where there was literally nothing there. Like you could almost practically see tumbleweeds blowing by to where all of a sudden it's like total 180. It's yeah. It can get a little crazy there sometimes.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. It's amazing to see like certain regions like really, really coming up. It's the same here in LA. Like you'll see like certain areas that like are really like blooming. Like Highland Park, for instance, is a place where there's a lot of like music venues that are starting to come up and a lot
Okay.
like an artist community that's really blooming. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I was wondering like do you have any shows that are coming up like as far as next year? Like when it comes to like booking and putting together shows, I've heard different numbers, but like how far in advance do you like to start putting things together?
I think it really depends on like the size of the band. First, obviously, if they're a bigger band that can play to 300 people or so, then doesn't matter how far in advance, really. But if it depends on your following. Like if you have a very, very like you're starting out and you have a small following, you definitely don't want to reach out like 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 months in advance. Like that's a little too much. But a general rule, I would say maybe 6 months, 6 months in advance at least.
Mhm. Yeah.
It is good. Um, Sometimes things can happen in like 3 months, but 6 months is generally the sweet spot, so to speak. So
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, if a band is reaching out to you for the first time, how do you prefer for them to reach out to you?
email. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm one of the things with like having different parts of, not just distorted heartbeat, but also my other job, real estate, and just life in general, is I have to keep everything super organized. And so email for me is my easiest way because you can look at my email and I've got probably about 100 different folders with is like for bands, it's like the date and then the name of the band. And so that's the easiest way though, because I almost use it like a little checklist. Like I love the feeling of clearing out all of my emails. So that's always going to be the number one way is, I try to stay as organized as possible. And one thing that I always tell people too is I keep receipts. So I will save every single email that I get, even if it's just somebody responding with the simple thank you, I'll still put it in the folder, you know, because just, with communication being so important, it's important to have as much in writing as possible and, just to look back on later if you need to. So email's always my favorite. Yeah.
And when they're emailing you, is it just a matter of sending you like their EPK, that sort of thing?
Mhm. Yeah, that always helps. Links, I'm for me personally, I'm as simple as you can make it, with a paragraph with just a basic description, of what your music sounds like, and then maybe also who you've played with, simple little paragraph and a link to all of your a link to all, your music, whether it be Spotify, Bandcamp, whatever. That's the easiest way. But also, if you're looking for a show, it also helps, for me anyways, it helps when a band has a specific date in mind. When they just throw out a random, oh, either, October or November, like that drives me insane. I'm like, narrow it down, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So here's like a question I have because I've in working with different people, sometimes they're like, "Oh, I don't like booking on certain nights." Like
Mhm.
And you mentioned Mondays. Like sometimes you will have like random cities that have like Mondays are like the big night. Um, but would you say that like in Dallas at least it's kind of like open in terms of you don't just have to play on weekends?
Um, Tuesdays are my least favorite days. But at the same time, that also doesn't mean that nothing will something can't happen. Mondays and Tuesdays tend to be a little slow, but I will say, it really just depends on the band's following. So one of the last shows I booked last month was Calabrese at Three Links, and they pretty much packed the place on a Monday night. So that was a little bit of a shocker, but it really just depends on the size of the band. Obviously, if it's a newer band coming through, Thursday, Friday, Saturday is going to be the best night. But if it's something, a little larger, the other nights can work, but preferably Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Um, we're getting a question from Pete Resso. What is your favorite detail or a unique detail about the Dallas goth scene that might surprise us?
A unique detail. Hmm. Oh man, I am trying to think. Ah, I might have to come back to that one. Um, I know there was one rumor at one point that Joan Jett's I Love Rock and Roll video was filmed at the church. Um, so that's probably one maybe kind of interesting detail. Um, This is actually the point where I wish Cameron was here because he's actually played. So with him actually playing the shows with different bands prior to Sevet, I guarantee you he would have he's told me some stories, so he would have a load of stories that he could tell. But that's the only unique detail that comes to mind real quick is the whole possible Joan Jett, the church. Joan Jett slash the church connection there.
I love that. It's a little Easter egg.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, hello to our friends that are joining us on Twitch. Thank you so much for joining us. Um, yeah, again, we're here with Krystal Garcia from Distorted Heartbeat. Incredible music. I want to say like multifaceted music entrepreneur. Because I mean, you
Look at
do so many
that.
things with Distorted Heartbeat. So,
Yeah.
and I love that you have a vision for it too. Like I love the expansion mindset that
Oh
you're
yeah,
evolving
for
it.
sure. Yeah. To me, it just doesn't make sense to do anything unless you're always constantly thinking of where you can take it, and like, how you can progress. But, that's just me. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the questions I had for you earlier was just like where you saw yourself in the future.
mhm.
And um, do you see that as kind of a vision for the next few years or like kind of an overarching vision that might change?
I think that's definitely where I want to head in the next few years. Where my ultimate goal and where I'll end up, who knows? I know
Yeah,
I know one thing's for certain, I'll be doing music one way or another. So, but
absolutely.
yeah, those are just some of my kind of within the next 5 years goals. As far as like booking tours, more artist management, possibly a festival. Like those are like my within the next 5 years roles.
I love it. I mean, and like you said, you really never know when you're putting out your vision and then you get there and then you're like, well, we'll see what
Yeah.
happens next. So,
Especially with the way things can change, like COVID, perfect example, where bands couldn't do live shows. And so then I was kind of thinking, okay, well, what can I do? If I can't book a live show, what can I do to occupy my time here? And that's at that point, and that's when I kind of started focusing a little bit more on back on the artist management side and learning like, okay, what are some good ways for bands, to promote bands? So like in the case of Sevet, like what's a good way since we can't do live shows right now, how can I also get their name out there as far as PR goes? So you always got to learn, like I always try to, you always got to know to be ready to, like I said, pivot, change when something goes wrong or doesn't go right. Okay, let's move on, to something. What else can we do? So,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do feel like I read this book called Who Moved My Cheese?
mhm.
And it's about this little mouse that he's in a maze with another mouse, and the cheese suddenly goes away, like where the cheese was in the maze. And the story of basically how the one mouse just runs off and already knows where the other cheese is, and then one mouse just sits there, just sitting there for a long time, like where did the cheese go?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess it's a matter of constantly being like attuned to what's going on in the present.
Right. And not, I don't want to say like having a backup plan, but having an alternative, just just being ready to just kind of go with the flow. So,
I feel like that's where like creativity really comes to play. Like you have to be really creative to figure out what the next pathway is going to be, I think.
right. And yeah, to be prepared, and you always got to think outside of the box. But sometimes you don't want to think too far outside because you don't want to ignore the stuff that's right there and obvious and in front of you. But yeah, I try as much as possible to be an out of the box thinker, but
Absolutely. Well, speaking of pivoting, we have another question from Elder Goth. I wonder how booking European bands in in America has changed with visa issues, etc. Has it become off-putting for bands and promoters?
it has, and so that's when one again you'll notice like a lot of bands, especially if they're coming from Europe, they're going to be reaching out to you a year or sometimes more than a year in advance, because they're going to have to get all of that. They have to get all of that stuff in order. There's certain, sometimes they'll ask for us to sign certain documents to show that they are going to be doing actual work here. And so, and sometimes it can be disappointing because you can go all that time having that show booked and looking forward to it and waiting for it, and then 3 or 4 months before it ends up getting canceled for visa issues. I've had that happen before. Um, I will say coincidentally, one time when that did happen, it actually did work in my favor. I was bummed because I was looking forward to the show a lot, but it worked in my favor though. Empathy test, I think it was 2023 they were supposed to be here in 2022. Um, but right up until like the last 2 weeks, and I was so excited and looking so forward to that show. And then 2 weeks before it was supposed to happen, it they couldn't get Isaac couldn't get his visa, or somebody in the band couldn't get their visa. So it didn't happen. But literally the second I got the email, like about 2 hours, because I actually timed it, I think it was 2 hours after between the time when I got that email to cancel it, I got another email from another booking agent that the Chameleons were looking for a really quick last minute show on that same exact date. So
Uh,
I was like, that worked in my favor. But yeah, it's the visa issue does make it a little bit more difficult. Like I said, a lot of bands they have to reach out sometime a year in advance, and you got to hope as it gets closer to that date that it doesn't get canceled.
I'm actually having an artist on next week, Rituals, and their tour here got canceled
Yeah,
uh, for that reason. So
yeah,
we'll be hearing their perspective.
yeah.
Yeah,
Which a lot of it is silly, but like,
yeah.
but Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we really, it's like, it's one of those things where I feel like it's like we do what we can.
Hmm.
And so, and like you were saying, you were like, okay, it actually, there was a silver lining to that getting canceled. And in Ritual's case, hoping to help promote them as much as we can because they did lose sale. I mean, all the merch sales that they would have had from the
Right.
tour because they did buy their merch ahead of time. So trying to support them,
Mhm.
so
And then it's also a bummer too for, the venues, especially if it's not canceled early enough, because then that's, them without a show for the night and their bar staff not getting paid for the night. So yeah,
yeah.
it's tough on everybody. Mm.
It does, absolutely. Here in LA right now, we're going through some stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And LA Phil just had to cancel their shows because of the curfew that's going
Mhm. I
on. So
saw I
it's
saw
not it's
some posts about that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So it's like there is a huge trickle down when things get canceled. It's not just, one segment that gets affected. There's a lot of moving parts with any live music.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, yeah. So yeah, it's one of those things I don't have an answer for. Just trying to continue to navigate as best we can.
Yep. It's again one of those things you got to learn. You gotta always be prepared for everything. Literally be prepared for everything and what you're gonna do next. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, it changes from day to day, you know. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of the nature of the beast, I think, at least in the live music world. Even being on tour day to day, like everything changes. We've had like last minute venue changes and
Oh, yeah.
bands that drop off or, something that will happen and just going like, okay, like with this given circumstance, like what can we do? You
Right.
know?
Yeah. You just I find you gotta just always expect the worst. So then you're pleasantly surprised. Yeah, but
I imagine though, like it's like probably, I mean, I know you're a very organized person. And so I imagine like staying organized is probably a big part of how you're able to like pivot quickly, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I try. It's always a work in progress though, because I mean, just life happens, but I have my set ways that I organize everything and my how I prioritize what I need to do and stuff. But and that's always like that's always my biggest obstacle for myself is I have to be prepared for something to go wrong and not take it personally or not take it, like not get upset when it does and feel like, oh, I didn't get all this done today because this happened. I just got to accept that that's life. You can plan all you want, but something is going to happen that you're not going to expect. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And giving yourself the grace for that, just as long as you're doing your best, I think that's really all
I
you
try.
can do.
I try, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I find that, it's like so many people that we get to work with and create with in this community really do try their best and like, unforeseen circumstances, but we still are like, okay,
Mhm.
we'll do our best to try to still make it work somehow, you know.
And sometimes things happen that you just it's really you just gotta remind yourself it's out of your hands. Like,
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you did the best you could. There's certain things that you just can't fix. There was one show that I did that was, it was a few years, it was 2019, and it was actors. 2019, it was at Three Links again, but about a week prior, we had an unusual amount of tornadoes in the area. And then when it came the day of the actors show occurred, it was just nonstop rain.
Mm,
It was nonstop rain. And so I was like, turnout was a little not quite what I had wanted, but at the end of the day, I can't fix the weather. I did all I could. I can't fix the weather. And so sometimes, it's just a matter of you just got to look and make sure that you did everything that you possibly could. And after that, it's just out of your hands. So,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, we were supposed to play Absolution Fest in Tampa last fall and there were the hurricanes.
hurricane. Yep. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, which obviously that sucks for so many reasons, but I mean, and I feel like horrible for Mark, because I've heard good things about him. So, but and
Yeah.
and I know I'm sure he puts in a lot of effort for that, but it's just, yeah, you always got to be prepared for the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will say that was actually like a great like example of how the music community is so it can be very supportive. Like we ended up playing in Atlanta, opening up for Male Tears.
Mhm.
And I was so grateful to Dom. Dom was the promoter for that. Sedition is the community, and the fact that the bands were willing to just include us in the lineup at the very last minute. I was like, that's amazing that everyone was like,
Right.
yes, come join us, come play. Like, I mean, how cool is that? Like, that's
Yeah.
amazing to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, always a good feeling when that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, every once in a while you run into the stinkers, but like I feel like for the most part, like I feel like everybody is here to like help each other out. So, I see that as a whole, like people are more than willing to be like, "Hey, I want to help you." You know.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
It goes back to again to where if you don't when bands don't have that attitude that they want to help people, they really just I don't feel like they get far. Like
Yeah.
you gotta have that you gotta just be a team player. If you want to get your music out there, you have to be a team player. That's all. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wanted to thank everyone again for hanging out with us and for your thoughtful questions and to Krystal, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your amazing perspective and wisdom with us.
thank you. Thank you for allowing me the time.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's like I just have so much love and respect for you and everything you're doing for our community. And yeah, you have such a beautiful heart and light too
Thank
about it.
you.
So yeah, it's very appreciated.
Well, I want to say thank you to Alice too. Like I said, or like I don't know if you've seen my post, but I felt more like I should be asking you questions and learning from you because your online presence is great. Your all of your branding is amazing. And then when I saw y'all live for the first time and you had the light set up, everything was so detailed and like and on point. Like I was like, man, I feel like I could learn from them. I feel like I should be doing this interview and asking you questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a forever work in progress, isn't it? Like,
I agree.
yeah. Well, everyone, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. We'll be back next week with rituals. And again, thank you again.
All right. Bye.